You can have a $1 million idea, a killer team, and plenty of funding, but if you miss this one thing, your startup is destined for failure. It's called product market fit, and if you don't have it, nothing else really matters. Now, I'm going to explain what it is and then show you guys the critically acclaimed framework that millions of entrepreneurs have used to successfully avoid the #1 reason that startups fail. Yes, I did say #1 because according to a research study done by theobserver.com, 42% of businesses cited a lack of market need as the main reason for their demise. Think about that. Nearly half of all startups failed because they did not bring a product to market that people actually wanted. And it almost sounds too simple to be true in a way, because founders are normally very smart, very tactical people who are convicted that their idea will be useful to people. But again and again, we're seeing a common refrain from a postmortem analysis being, we misread the market. And you might be interested to know how this even happens. Well, let's look at a real world example that had $120 million of funding and still failed because it could not find a good product market fit. The company was called Juicero, and they set out to create a high-tech juicer touted as the Keurig for juices. Essentially, the Juicero was a Wi-Fi enabled $400 gadget that took pre-chopped up fruits and vegetables and in a Keurig pod style loaded them into a machine that would then squeeze out fresh juice. It was highly technical, highly engineered, and it actually got so much funding from venture capital that at one point it was one of the hottest tech startups. It was expensive, it was innovative, and it was backed by massive venture capital funds. So what went wrong? If you put on your common sense cap, it might not be too hard to understand. Frankly, people did not want to pay $400 for a juicer that honestly was not that much more convenient with proprietary packets and highly expensive single servings. And it turns out that just a little bit after launch, you didn't even need the machine to squeeze out the juice. You could literally take one of their single serving packets, crush it in your hand, and it would create a similar amount of juice. So what was even the point of the $400 juicer to begin with if it doesn't do anything? That's slightly besides the point though. Ultimately, customers did not want to pay $400 for a redundant juicer. Nobody wanted the Keurig for juice. For many, it was simply just easier to buy a manual presser for a much more affordable price or just buying bottled juice. The key lesson from the story is that Juicero solved a non-problem. People simply did not actually want the product. And for those of you curious how Juicero ended up, just 16 months after launch, they did shut down, citing they could not find a viable business model. You can engineer an incredibly sophisticated product, market it to absolutely everybody, but ultimately, if it's still not solving a true problem for people, nobody's going to buy it. And this is the mistake that kills most startups. It's not funding, it's not timing, but it's building a device or a product that nobody asked for. There's a really good book that talks about a ton of different case studies of companies that have ultimately failed. And there's a section in it called False Starts, which is largely what this video is about. I think it is a really good read if you're interested in knowing all of the reasons why startups fail. Conveniently, the book is called Why Startups Fail by Tom Eisenmann, and it's really good. I just finished reading it and actually spurred me creating this video right now. I'll link it in the description if you're interested. At this point, you're probably asking, how do I avoid building something that nobody wants? How do I save all of this money, time, and effort, potentially years of your life? Well, it's really simple. It's this one framework that millions of entrepreneurs have been using all over the world. It's called The Lean Startup by Ries. And the book ultimately describes a process for how entrepreneurs can find their product market fit without spending all that money. It's an easy 4 steps, starting with step 1, which is to identify your assumptions. This is where you have to define key metrics that have to be true for your business to operate. Before writing a single line of code or stocking inventory, you have to ask yourself assumptions and questions about where can I meet my customer? What do they do during the day? Importantly, what are their pain points, unmet needs, or inefficiencies in their life today? By asking these questions, you're going to be able to have your product and be able to say whether customers actually have the problem it's trying to solve, whether they care enough to solve it, and most importantly, whether they're willing to pay for this product or not. This step forces you to be honest and to really iron out the details that often get so lost by the eagerness of being an entrepreneur. If you can't articulate a specific reason why a specific group would be positively impacted by the product you're offering, and you probably haven't done enough refining. You want to make sure you get to the point where you can answer that statement before you move on to step 2, because it'll alleviate a lot of problems. Speaking of step 2, it is to build a minimum viable product, or an MVP. This is a very common tactic nowadays where you take those key assumptions and you try and create the bare minimum product to test whether or not your key assumptions are to be proven true or false. An MVP is not a full app. It's not an entire website fully coded out. It could be a one-page landing site where you simply collect emails to interest. It could be running Instagram ads and seeing how many clicks you get. It could be a video demo that you post onto YouTube. And even if you're running something a little bit more complicated, like an automated service, you still could run that manually for the first couple clients to see if it'll really work. Your goal isn't perfection in the MVP stage. It is simply a proof of concept. You want to make sure you're going in the right direction and you're finding actual sustainable customers. So what defines the sustainable customer? Well, that brings us into step 3, which is to measure. Measure what the customer does, not what the customer says. Are they signing up for pre-orders? Are they putting in their email on websites? Are they telling their friends and giving referrals? Those are the important metrics. Those are the things you need to be watching for. You need to watch what they are actually doing with your MVP in hand. It's really important to be scientific and methodical about the process that you're going through, because in a way you are testing hypotheses over and over again, similar to a scientist. You got to be prepared to confront harsh truths with this. If the feedback is tepid, or people say it's a nice idea but they wouldn't actually pay for it, listen to that, because those are the biggest signs that you're going in the wrong direction, in the same way that Juicero went. And once you feel like you have enough customer information from your measurements, that brings us into step 4, which is pivot or persevere. Once you have real world data, it's decision time. Did your MVP prove your assumptions? If yes, keep going with it. If no, then decide to pivot. Pivoting might mean you tweak who is your target customer. It might mean your price. It might mean what does your product offer. You don't have to completely scrap the idea, because chances are, if you can augment your service just a little bit, just in the right way, whether it appeals to a different demographic or it provides different services, you will find some success. But sometimes it also could mean rethinking the entire thing, and that is okay. Pivoting early is not a failure, it is a course correction. It is a structured course correction to test a new hypothesis. Be willing to pivot based on the evidence that you're given. Be very brutally honest, even if you've sunk some time and effort that would be a little bit painful. I promise you it's less pain than when it inevitably fails. Key takeaways from this book is to start small and to learn fast. Starting a new business puts you in a very complex world of a lot of different moving parts, and the best way to think about it is product market fit being that foundation. If the foundation is weak from the start, you're probably going to crumble even if you have the best marketing, the best team, or the most amount of money. Conversely, if the foundation is solid, that is, if you're solving a real problem that people actually have, then you'll be able to weather any storm that comes at you during the course of your business's lifetime by leaning into that genuine demand and need filling. Whether you're a new business owner or an aspiring one, it can be difficult to think about all of this entirely on your own. Well, you don't have to. Watch this video right here to know how ChatGPT can help you right now start and grow your business with just a couple extra sentences in the prompt. That's all I've got. Thanks, y'all.